come to Munich in January. It's a perfect time to start a YouTube channel with some nice riding videos. It's 1 or 2 degrees Celsius, almost freezing, cold rain, and I decided to go for a little ride. Great idea. So I wanted to show you just a few tips and tricks on taking photos, and mainly how to pose your bike like a model. So let's see if we can find a decent spot here. So I got a few things that I do first to set up a shot. First thing is to look at the position of the bike, and I would like to start very basic, to look at the side profile view. So the first thing that you should do is to have the valve stem aligned with your markings on the tires, and most people agree that things look best when you put the markings in the middle. Then you can read what type of model of the tire you have. Do the same on the front, like so. The next thing that I always do is to align the cranks so that they are not necessarily horizontal, but I want to achieve a line from the chainstay going into the crank arm, and I also try to align the pedal to have a nice line there. And it also means that basically you are hiding the rear crank arm behind the frame, so it looks a bit cleaner. Apart from that, I think we're good to go for the side shot. Well, maybe first of all look around the environment so you don't have too much cigarette butts and trash, which is a bit of a challenge here since I'm just by the freeway. But yeah, let's try to take a nice shot of that. So what you really need to do is to crunch down a bit to get into a nice position for the shot. Today I have my quite cheap camera. That's an Sony Alpha 6000 with a 35mm objective. It's more like for portrait photography, but it works quite okay for bikes too. One thing to consider with the camera and the objective is it's a tip that I saw from, what's his name, John Watson, John Proley on Instagram. He's one of the famous photographers. He is actually using almost a teleobjective lens, because you can imagine if you're using a wide angle objective that any straight line of the frame will actually start to distort, have some curvature, the roundness of the tire will get affected, and basically when you're using more of a telescope lens you can flatten the image, which becomes especially important in terms of looking at the bars, especially when you have drop bars and you take your full side view. You will be able to see parts of the let's say the rear handlebar, and having a telescope lens actually flattens the image and makes it look more natural and nice. So I will take a few shots with my system camera now and see how it turns out. On the side profile shot I can use a very narrow field of depth. I can use a very narrow When I'm doing the side profile shot, I can use a very narrow field of depth, because basically the bike is very straight. If I go towards a 3/4 front view, I obviously have parts of the bikes that are more close to me and the rear tire is further away, so I need to adjust my focal settings to capture more of the bike sharp, if that's what I'm going for. So that would be the second basic shot, is to get this kind of a front 3/4 front view, I guess you call it, which I use for a lot of my photos. And usually I take it in the horizontal mode as well as the what do you call it, portrait mode. For portrait mode, I find it easier than to crop the image to suit the square format of Instagram, so I usually take both. I mean, it's storage is cheap, we're not developing film these days, so take a lot of photos to get the best ones. Okay, let's go. So then, after the side profile and the second 3/4 front view, I like to do kind of a variant of that, and that is to take the bike and try to place the rear tire against the wall without dropping the bike, which is a bit of a challenge sometimes. Let's see if we can get it set up here. The rear tire is against the wall, and actually what's holding up the bike, I have to try to balance the front tire. Sometimes you have to kind of put a little stone in here to make sure that it doesn't turn and tip the bike over, which is like a 50% of happening during one of these shoots. But that actually gives you again kind of a 3/4 front view, but a little bit different. I really like this because it gives a very dynamic stance of the bike. You sit a little bit in front to the side of it. What I want to make sure is that I don't cover the saddle with the handlebar, so I try to position myself so that there is a gap between the handlebar and the saddle, and that basically now becomes my shot of the bike. This I also use quite a lot, so I'll take a few shots with the camera and see how it turns out. I just quickly want to show you what I'm doing in the post-processing. I have a Mac, so I import from my camera to my Mac, and now I'm gonna crop this image that I took in the portrait mode to make an Instagram post. So basically I edit it, I go to crop, choose the square format, and here I try to align that I have equal amount of space on both sides of the wheels, and I try to position the bike so it's got some air to breathe, so to say, to the edges, equal amount. And then I try not to do too much with the filter. If I messed up too much here with the photo, it's already basically bad, so I try to keep it pretty close to default. I'm not gonna touch any of the filters, and it was quite clear that this day didn't have a good lighting. I was behind this wall to the freeway, so I didn't get enough natural lighting. The only good thing is that there was no direct sunlight, so there's no sharp or hard shadows behind the bike that can distract, but this is an okay photo, but nothing that I'm really crazy about. So that's it, basically cropping it down and then saving, of course. So position number 4 is not really a position, it's more about focusing on the details of the bike. So in this case I think it's actually quite nice to try to get the bokeh effect out of your camera lens, of course. So with my lens it goes down to a focal point 1.8, where you can achieve this effect without doing any type of software filters. So that's what I like to do to capture, say, the brakes, and capture details in the frame. This Modifox Courier with the lugged frame can get some really nice photos if we use the bokeh effect with a really narrow field of depth. Especially also when we look at the levers, in this case the Uri grips with the friction shifters. These are details that look pretty good when you take them with the bokeh effect. So you really capture small part of the component and keep everything else blurred in the background. Here it usually helps if you're not close to any background, like in this case you place your bike more free with a stand, and then you snap your shot. But I guess I'll try to take the front of the bike here, or maybe the grips, just to show the effect with my camera. You probably look good with this cold rain that is coming down. It's not the nicest environment to take photos, so I think that's the topic of one of the, or maybe the part 2 of this video, to find some nice places to take good shots. Actually taking it in front of graffiti, sometimes the graffiti is pretty cool, but it's also a bit busy to give a good opportunity for the bike to really pop with the frame. But yeah, I think that's it for today. This photo is actually quite okay and good lighting, but it's getting really destroyed by the busy background with all of these lines. So you really have to consider what you put behind the bike. If you look at the next photo, it's more of a dark background to a white frame, which gives a good contrast. It's not the most exciting, but it really makes the bike pop, and especially for Instagram where you watch on a phone, it really makes a difference. I like to put the bike in urban environments. It's especially good when you put it in front of an entrance or in a tunnel where the background has a lot of shadows and darkness. This really makes your bike stand out. And when you find such a place with good natural lighting, you can move around, take some different angles, moving closer, and then you really get photos that stand out and really show the frame in a good way. So that's some of my favorite spots to take, especially tunnels, or you find some deep garage entrance you can find. Yeah, a lot of close-ups here of the deep flange hubs that I have on the bike, cranks. I had to change the rear derailleur because it didn't work very well for me. But those are some of the parts that I like to put, especially Ori grips, 4-finger levers, and finally a shot of the bike that I really liked. Oh, it's cold. Freezing cold. Well, that's 4 ideas for you to take nice photos of your bike. Side profile, 3/4 front view, rear tire against the wall, I don't know what to call that pose, view, and then the bokeh detail component view. I hope that helps someone. If you use those tricks, take some photos. I would be very happy if you tag me on Instagram or write a comment. I will have a look on that. Cool to see if it would be useful to someone. And as you know, I'm just really not a professional photographer. I'm an amateur. I'm just learning. But I think it's interesting to try to improve. You see most people taking photos of their bikes when they try to sell it. It's really terrible. They take it in some storage room in the basement. It's out of focus. It's bad lighting. Their feet and toes and everything is showing. It's difficult to get a view on what is the bike, and yeah, they could probably get more money if they could present it in a proper way. So with that, I will go home. My fingers are falling off soon because it's so cold.